The happiest day of my life quickly became the most terrifying. I had just given birth to our first child, our long-awaited son. And I thought the hardest part was behind me. But the moment the nurse brought the baby to me, I froze. He was beautiful, healthy, perfect. But he had deep brown skin, soft curly hair, and the darkest eyes I'd ever seen. And neither I nor my husband Sasha were black. Where's my baby? I whispered. The nurse smiled. You're holding him, sweetheart. No, I felt dizzy. This isn't a mistake? She looked confused. No, he's yours. I was in the delivery room. Congratulations. I wanted to scream, cry, ask a million questions. But all I could do was stare. Was it possible for something like this to happen? Could a white couple have a black child? I waited in fear for Sasha to arrive, clinging to some desperate hope that he'd smile and laugh it off, say the baby would get lighter, or that it was just shadows from the hospital lighting. But as soon as he stepped into the room and saw our son, everything crumbled. He went pale. His mouth opened, then closed again. What is this? He whispered. Who is this baby? Sasha, please, I begged. Let me explain. Explain what? His voice cracked. Is this some kind of joke? He's ours. I gave birth to him. Don't lie to me. You cheated, didn't you? You had an affair while I was at work, while I was out building our life, and now I'm supposed to raise someone else's child. No. Sasha, please. I swear I never. He turned, left the room, and didn't come back. 3 days later, I left the hospital alone. Just me and the baby I named Petia. No husband. No homecoming. No celebration. Just silence and judgment. The whispers started immediately. The neighbors stared, the nurses avoided eye contact. Even the cab driver looked me up and down like he was piecing together a scandal. When I got home, the walls felt too quiet. The crib Sasha had built with his own hands stood untouched in the corner. I tried to hold it together. But every time Petia cried, I felt like I was crumbling. And then came the doorbell. My mother. Oksana. She rushed in smiling, carrying bags of baby gifts. She hadn't yet seen the baby. Oh, my sweet girl, she cried. Where's my grandson? I hesitated. Mama, promise you won't yell. She stopped, narrowed her eyes. What are you talking about? Just come see him. I led her into the bedroom. When she saw him, she gasped. She didn't scream. She didn't faint. But her smile vanished completely. Irina, she said slowly. Where did this baby come from? Mama, he's mine. You're sure? They could have made a mistake. You didn't see him right after birth, did you? I passed out during delivery, I admitted. They brought him to me later. There, she snapped. They switched him. That's the only explanation. I've read stories. They swap babies all the time. Maybe another woman gave birth at the same time. Maybe they made a mistake. Mama, that's crazy. But the truth was, I wanted her to be right. Because the alternative, that I had somehow impossibly given birth to a dark-skinned baby, was something I couldn't make sense of. And neither could Sasha. The next day, my mother stormed into the hospital like a hurricane. We demanded to speak to the attending physician. You've made a horrible mistake, she said. You gave my daughter the wrong child. The doctor sighed, clearly used to this type of situation. Ma'am, your daughter's child is indeed her own. I delivered him myself. Then how do you explain this? She gestured to Petia, who squirmed softly in my arms. There's something called genetics, the doctor said patiently. It's entirely possible for recessive genes to reappear after generations. If there was any African ancestry on either side, this could result in a darker-skinned child. But there isn't, my mother snapped. We're white. My husband's white. Her husband's white. No one in our family has ever. Are you sure? He asked gently. Sometimes families keep secrets. My mother stiffened. When we left, she was unusually quiet. At home, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Could Sasha have African ancestry? I didn't know anything about his father. He left when Sasha was young. Could it have skipped a generation? My heart broke all over again when Sasha called that evening. I want a divorce, he said coldly. You can keep the baby. He's not mine. You won't even take a DNA test? There's no need. I know what I know. Click. I sat in silence. Petia cried in the background. I picked him up, pressed his tiny body to my chest, and rocked him gently. He was mine. I didn't care how. I just knew I couldn't let him go. But if I wanted to prove the truth and win my family back, I had to dig deeper. Even if that meant uncovering secrets no one wanted to face. I couldn't sleep all night. Petia lay peacefully in his crib, breathing softly, while I stared at the ceiling, wondering how everything had spiraled so far out of control. Sasha's words echoed in my head, "This isn't my child. How could you?" And what made it worse, even my own mother had started to doubt me. By morning, despite barely sleeping, I threw on some clothes, wrapped Petia in a blanket, and made my way to the maternity hospital. The nurse at the reception recognized me and gave me a tired but polite smile. I asked to see the doctor who had delivered my baby. In his office, the doctor looked exhausted but kind. "Mrs. Protsenko," he said, folding his hands on the desk. "How can I help you?" I hesitated. My throat was dry. I could barely form the words. I think my baby may have been switched at birth," I blurted out. "He's dark-skinned. Neither I nor my husband are." The doctor raised his eyebrows, then nodded slowly. "I understand. It's extremely rare, but not impossible. What makes you think he's not your biological son?" "My husband is white. I'm white. Our families, we've never had anyone dark-skinned." "Are you certain?" he asked gently. "Genetics can be complicated. Sometimes traits skip generations." I went quiet. No, I wasn't certain. I'd never asked my parents about distant relatives. The doctor then explained how genes work, how a recessive gene for skin color could emerge even if it hadn't been seen in recent generations. But I didn't care. I needed answers. "I want a DNA test," I said firmly. "Of course. It's your right. But I have to warn you, even if the child is biologically yours, that doesn't guarantee everyone will believe it. You'll need more than science to convince your loved ones." On the way home, I kept repeating his words, "You'll need more than science." What more could I give them? At home, Petia was crying again. My milk was drying up, stress was taking its toll. I tried feeding him with formula, but guilt stabbed me with every scoop. That afternoon, Mom came back with bags full of baby clothes, formula, bottles, and a stack of gossip magazines. She dropped them on the table and flipped open one. "Here," she said, tapping the page. "This woman had her baby switched in the hospital. It happens." I barely glanced at the article. I didn't care about someone else's tragedy. I cared about mine. "Irina," Mom continued, "if that DNA test proves this isn't your child, we're going to court. We'll sue them. And we'll get your real baby back." I sighed. "And if it is my baby?" She fell silent. She didn't want to think about that possibility, because that meant facing the uncomfortable truth. That maybe, somehow, this wasn't the hospital's fault. Maybe it was ours. The next day, I ran into some of the neighbors in front of our building. They didn't even try to hide their whispers. "Poor girl," one murmured. "Her husband left her." Well, what do you expect? She gave birth to a black baby. I bit my lip and walked past them with my head high. Petia was sleeping in the stroller, unaware of the shame people tried to place on him. I wanted to scream at them, but I stayed quiet. I had to be stronger than their gossip. That evening, Sasha called. "Hey," he said, awkwardly. "I've been thinking. If you're so sure he's not my son, do the test. If it shows something unexpected, then we'll talk." I wanted to yell at him. But instead, I said calmly, "The test is done. I'll have the results in a few days." "All right," he muttered. Maybe I could come see him. Just once. That made me cry. Not from happiness, from helplessness. He wanted to see our son, like he was some stranger's baby. Mom wasn't sitting still either. She came up with more and more theories. She brought up the idea of bribing someone in the hospital to get more information. "You can't trust anyone," she warned. "These things happen. They cover up mistakes." "Mistakes," I echoed. That word didn't sit right with me. Petia wasn't a mistake. At night, I cried again. Mom heard me through the walls, I knew. But she didn't come in. Only once, in the middle of the night, As I stood in the kitchen sipping water, she appeared in the doorway. "If the results prove he's really yours," she said softly, "I'll help you. Even if Sasha doesn't come back." It was the first time she offered something that felt like real support. I clung to it like a lifeline. 2 days passed. I got a call from the lab. The results were ready. I went alone. Standing outside the lab with the envelope in my hand, my fingers trembled. I didn't know whether I was hoping Petya was my child or someone else's. Finally, I opened it. Probability of maternity, 99.9999%. I froze. The world blurred around me. He was mine. Petya was my son. And yet, nothing felt solved. Because if he was mine, then the truth must lie elsewhere. Deeper in my family. Somewhere in the past. Something hidden. And maybe I wasn't the one with the secret after all. I stared at the DNA result long after I'd read it. The numbers on the page didn't just prove something, they shattered everything I believed about my family, my past, even myself. Petya was my biological son. Which meant I hadn't been betrayed by the hospital. I hadn't been given the wrong baby. He was mine, completely, undoubtedly mine. But how? I wasn't ready to go home just yet. My hands trembled as I folded the paper and tucked it back into the envelope. My legs carried me to a nearby park, where I sat on a bench and watched mothers pushing strollers, chatting, laughing. None of them looked like their worlds had just collapsed. None of them had to defend their baby's right to exist. I took out my phone and called my mom. "The test's back," I said. "He's mine." Silence. "You hear me, Mom? He's my son." "Irina," she finally said. "Are you absolutely sure?" 99.9999% sure. "Isn't that what you wanted?" I don't understand," she said, her voice shaking. "Then how?" "Yeah, me neither." I hung up. By the time I got home, she was waiting at the door. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and disbelief. For the first time, she didn't try to speak first. I handed her the envelope. She read it. Then again. Then again. "So?" I asked. "Now what?" She slowly sat down on the couch. Maybe the genes skipped a generation," she muttered. I narrowed my eyes. "From who, Mom?" "You always told me we're Ukrainian through and through." She swallowed hard. "Well, maybe not entirely." There was something in her voice. Something she'd been hiding. I pressed. "Mom, who is my dad?" Her eyes shot up to mine. "What kind of question is that?" "A real one. A necessary one. I'm asking because something in this family isn't what we thought it was. Irina, your father is your father. End of story." I'm not so sure anymore. The next morning, I called my dad. "Hey, Papa," I said gently. "Can I ask you something kind of weird?" "Of course, kiddo." "What's going on?" I hesitated. "When you and Mom got together, was there ever a time you thought I might not be yours?" There was a pause. A long one. Then a quiet sigh. "That's a heavy question," he said. "But no. I never doubted for a second. I loved you the moment I held you." "Did Mom ever have a relationship before you? With someone not like us?" "You mean someone black?" "Yeah." He didn't answer right away. But eventually, he said, she was in university. There were a lot of foreign students then. But she always said nothing happened. "Why are you asking this now?" "Because my baby's dark-skinned, Papa." Dead silence. "I did a DNA test. He's mine. Biologically. And I didn't cheat. I swear it. Which means it's coming from me. From our side." "Jesus. I need to know the truth," I said. He exhaled slowly. "Talk to your mother, Irina. She owes you that." That evening, I didn't wait for the perfect moment. There wasn't going to be one. "Tell me about your university years," I said, arms crossed. "I already told you everything," Mom snapped. "No. You told me what you wanted me to believe." She hesitated. Then slowly sat down, brushing her hair back. "There was a boy," she said finally. "His name was Ahmed. He was from Tunisia. Smart. Charming. Always helping everyone with exams. Did you date?" "No. Not officially. But you were intimate." She went quiet. "Mom, I made a mistake," she said. "We had one night. I regretted it immediately. I never told your father. I didn't even know I was pregnant until later. And by then, it was easier to pretend nothing happened. I felt like someone had knocked the air out of my lungs. So you're saying, he could have been my biological father? She nodded, barely. Which means, that's why Petya is dark-skinned. I'm so sorry, Irina. I stood there, arms limp at my sides, trying to process what this meant. That my whole identity had been built on a lie. That my son, the source of so much conflict, had simply inherited something long buried. You let me think I cheated, I whispered. You let my husband leave. I didn't know, she cried. I didn't think it would ever show up. You were born with fair skin. I thought, maybe I got away with it. You got away with nothing. She tried to touch my arm, but I pulled away. You lied to everyone. And now I'm paying the price. I didn't sleep that night. I watched Petya instead. His little hands moved in his dreams, maybe chasing butterflies or waving at angels. He was so beautiful. And finally, I understood where that beauty came from. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a punishment. It was part of me. And I would no longer be ashamed of it. A few days passed, but everything felt different. I had the truth now, and it gave me clarity, but not peace. Sasha still hadn't returned. My mother, now strangely quiet, tried to help more around the apartment, as if she could fix things with folded laundry or a warm bowl of soup. But what I needed, she couldn't give. What I needed was my husband to look at our son and see what I saw: love, not doubt. A future, not a scandal. Then one afternoon, a knock. I opened the door, and there he was. Sasha. He didn't speak right away. Just looked at me. Then at Petya, now curled up in his bassinet, napping peacefully. Can I come in? He asked. I stepped aside. Of course. He entered slowly, like someone unsure of where they belonged. He took a seat on the edge of the couch, but didn't say anything. The silence between us was heavy. It wasn't like before, it wasn't angry. It was tired. I did the DNA test, he finally said. My heart jumped. You did. He nodded. Vera insisted. She wanted it for the divorce hearing. I stiffened. I see. He pulled a folded document from his pocket. It came back yesterday. 99.9999%. I stared. So, he's mine. His voice cracked. Sasha. I was wrong, Irina. So wrong. His hands were shaking. I was so sure you cheated. That you lied. And all this time. You didn't trust me, I said quietly. He buried his face in his hands. I know. I don't deserve forgiveness. I stood still, heart aching. I had played this moment in my head over and over, how he'd come back, how he'd apologize. But now that it was happening, I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt exhausted. Do you want to hold him? I asked. He looked up, eyes wet. Can I? I picked Petya up gently and placed him in Sasha's arms. For a moment, my husband just stared at our son, like he was seeing him for the first time. Petya yawned and opened his eyes, staring right back. Sasha broke. He began sobbing softly, clutching our baby as if afraid someone might take him away. He looks like me, he whispered. The nose, the eyes. He really does. Yes, I said. He's yours. He's ours. We sat in silence again, this time with something soft and real holding us together. Sasha leaned forward and kissed our son's forehead. I'm so sorry, he said again. And I want to come home. If you'll let me. I didn't answer right away. I watched Petya's tiny fingers grip Sasha's shirt. I thought about the nights I cried alone, the moments I felt utterly betrayed. But also, I thought about love, the kind that grows not just from blood, but from effort, humility, and forgiveness. Come home, I said at last. But not just for me. You need to fight for him too. I will, he promised. Every day. Life didn't become perfect overnight. Sasha moved back in, and we tried to rebuild slowly. My mother still carried her guilt like an anchor, and we hadn't really spoken about what she'd confessed. It lingered in the background of every conversation, every glance. Then another twist. Sasha's grandmother, Marina, called and insisted on visiting. She'd heard rumors, but said nothing specific over the phone. When she arrived, she was holding a worn leather photo album. I need to show you both something, she said, setting it on the table. Page after page of black and white photos followed, sepia-toned family portraits, weddings, babies in lace bonnets. Then she stopped. This, she pointed, is your grandfather, Sasha. My father. The man in the photo looked proud in a military uniform. His skin was darker than the others in the album. He was born in Morocco, Marina said. My mother met him when she was stationed there during the war. It was a scandal. Her family never accepted him, so they lied about where he came from. Sasha stared at the image. You never told me. You never asked, she said softly. And I didn't think it mattered. But now I see it does. I felt my breath catch in my throat. That meant Petia's skin tone didn't just come from my side. It came from Sasha's too. A wave of emotion rolled over me. All this time, we'd been so quick to blame me, him, my mother, the hospital, when the truth had been woven into both of us all along. No betrayal. No mistake. Just hidden history. And a beautiful boy who brought it all to light. Sasha took my hand. I guess he really is both of us. I nodded. More than we ever knew. Our life, for a short while, started to feel like something close to normal. Sasha was home. He was present, more than he had ever been. He helped with Petia's feedings, changed diapers, rocked him to sleep, and even sang silly lullabies that made our son giggle. For the first time since Petia's birth, it felt like we were a real family. I allowed myself to believe things would be okay. But life doesn't always reward you for making peace. Sometimes, it throws one more storm your way, just to test the strength of what you've rebuilt. It came in the form of a letter. Official. Government issued. Marked urgent. Sasha opened it. His brow furrowed. Then he looked up at me stunned. What is it? I asked. He didn't speak at first. He just handed it to me. I read. It was from the court. A petition had been filed to dispute the results of the DNA test. Filed by Vera, his mother. She claimed the test was falsified, that I had manipulated the results, and that Sasha was being emotionally blackmailed into staying in a marriage built on lies. I felt the blood drain from my face. She's trying to take this to court? Sasha nodded slowly. She's accusing you of forging a DNA test. Is she insane? Sasha, you were there when the lab called with the results. She's grasping at straws, he said bitterly. She knows she was wrong, and instead of admitting it, she's doubling down. But if this goes to court, I swallowed hard. She could try to take Petia from us. He got up and paced the room, running a hand through his hair. I'll talk to her, he said finally. I'll go over there tonight. That night, he left for his mother's house. I waited at home, holding Petia close, praying that Sasha would come back with good news. But hours passed. It got dark. I fed Petia, bathed him, laid him in his crib, and sat beside the window with a cup of cold tea. Then the door opened. Sasha looked furious. She refuses to drop it, he said through clenched teeth. She says I've been brainwashed and that you've trapped me with a fake baby. I tried everything, Irina. I begged her. But she's relentless. I sat in silence, staring at the floor. I'm going to hire a lawyer, he said. No, I said quietly. I will. He looked at me. I'll fight her, Sasha. I won't let her take Petia away. Not now. Not ever. The next weeks were pure hell. We had to compile documents, testimonies, and redo the DNA test under strict court observation. We submitted pictures, logs, even video footage of Sasha holding Petia, feeding him, loving him, because apparently, biology alone wasn't enough. The whispers in the neighborhood returned, louder now. She's going to lose the baby. Court won't let her keep that child, look at him. She lied to that poor man. I didn't respond to the glares or the muttered insults. I held my head high even when it shook. My mother stayed with me during the hearings, and one day, while I was preparing paperwork, she approached me with something in her hand. I found this, she said, holding an old photograph. I think you should show it to the court. It was of me, maybe 5 or 6 years old. Darker skin than I had now, with curly black hair and big brown eyes. A photo I had never seen. That's you, she said. Right after a summer at your father's family house. You always darkened in the sun. People used to joke that you looked adopted. I stared at it, stunned. You see, I never thought you were lying, she said. I just didn't want to admit there were things even I didn't understand. But this might help. At the final hearing, Sasha and I stood before the judge. Petya lay asleep in my arms. Vera was seated behind us, arms folded, stone-faced. She didn't even look at the child she had once claimed as her grandson. When our turn came, I stepped forward and said only this. Your Honor, this child has been through enough. He is not a courtroom prop. He is a little boy who deserves to grow up in a home full of love, not fear and accusations. I have nothing to prove anymore. The science has spoken. But I will fight as long as it takes for him. The judge looked over the files, the second round of DNA confirmation, and our testimony. Then he looked at Vera. Madam, your claims are not only unfounded, but deeply damaging. This court finds no reason to pursue this case further. Custody remains with the biological parents. Case dismissed. A wave of relief washed over me. Sasha squeezed my hand. Vera stood up. You're making a mistake. The judge didn't even look at her. Court is adjourned. She stormed out. Outside, Sasha and I walked into the sun, Petya tucked between us. He leaned in. I'm so sorry. You've said that, I smiled weakly. I know. But now I'm saying it as a man who watched you fight for our family. Who watched you stand tall when even I fell apart. I looked down at our son. He's worth it. He nodded. So are you. We didn't win because we had more proof. We won because love, real love, doesn't back down. Even when the whole world tells you to. A few weeks after the court hearing, the world quieted down. Our lives finally started to feel like a family's life should slow, loving, a little messy, but deeply peaceful. Petya's giggle became the background music of our home. Sasha began working remotely to spend more time with him. And I finally slept without tears. But something kept gnawing at me. A small, persistent whisper in the back of my mind. How did this even happen? Yes, the DNA tests proved Petya was our son. And yes, love had won. But the question of his appearance, the question that had almost shattered our family, remained unanswered. One evening, while Sasha was rocking Petya to sleep, I sat in the kitchen flipping through an old genetics book I'd borrowed from the library. That's when I saw it. A diagram dot. Recessive traits. Genetic memory. Dormant alleles. There it was, in black and white. A child can inherit genetic features, skin tone, eye color, hair texture, from a grandparent or great-grandparent, even if those features hadn't shown up in generations. I froze. Sasha walked in. Reading again, he smiled. Do you know much about your grandparents? I asked, closing the book slowly. He raised an eyebrow. Only my grandma Marina. She raised me after Dad left. Why? Have you ever seen a photo of your grandfather? Your real one? Sasha paused. No, never. My mom never talked about him. She always just said he was gone before I could remember. I nodded. I think it's time we ask her. It took some convincing. Sasha wasn't eager to speak to Vera again after everything she'd done. But curiosity won out. He called her and arranged to meet. I didn't go. When he returned, hours later, his expression was unreadable. She lied to me my whole life, he said, sinking into the couch. My dad wasn't Ukrainian. Or Russian. He was from Morocco. A foreign exchange student. She never told anyone. I sat next to him, speechless. She said she was young and in love. That he left before I was born. She was ashamed. Said people would have judged her. So she buried the truth. Even from me. I reached for his hand. Petya inherited it, I whispered. That blood. That history. It was never about me, Sasha. It was always in you. He looked at me stunned. I blamed you. I hurt you. And all this time. It doesn't matter anymore, I said softly. Now we know. We decided to tell Petya one day, when he was older. When he could understand what it means to carry more than one story in your skin. Until then, we just lived. One Saturday morning, Sasha took Petya for a walk while I cleaned up the living room. When they returned, Petya had a sunflower in his little fist and a smear of chocolate on his chin. I got him a pastry, Sasha grinned. He ate it in 4 seconds. You're spoiling him, I said, laughing. I'm making up for lost time, he replied, kissing my forehead. That night, as we tucked our son into bed, he looked up at us and asked, Mama, Papa, why am I brown and you're not? Sasha and I exchanged a look. You're special, I said. Because you carry pieces of both of us and pieces of people who came before us. A long, long time ago. Like ancient history? Sasha chuckled. Exactly like that. Petia yawned. Okay. I like being special. And just like that, the storm that once threatened to destroy us turned into a bedtime story. One filled with heritage, identity, truth, and love. We didn't get a fairy tale. Not the kind with castles and fairy godmothers. But we got something better. We got the truth. And that was enough to save us.